The Cuban Missile Crisis nearly started World War III. October 1962. For 13 days, the entire human race held its collective breath as the world teetered on the edge of total destruction. Deep inside Washington's intelligence rooms, a terrifying discovery is made. Aerial photographs reveal something impossible. The Soviet Union has secretly constructed nuclear missile launch sites in the dense jungles of Cuba, just 90 miles from American shores. President John F. Kennedy faces an impossible dilemma. An invasion could trigger World War III, but doing nothing is not an option. Kennedy orders a naval blockade of the island, but a fleet of Soviet warships is already steaming straight for the quarantine line. In Moscow, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev is furious. He views the blockade as an act of aggression and refuses to order his ships to turn around. The reality of mutually assured destruction sets in. A single miscalculation could turn cities into ash. The tension reaches a boiling point on October 27th, when an American U-2 spy plane is shot down over Cuba, killing the pilot. The world seems destined for a nuclear holocaust. The military mechanism is already in motion, and it feels impossible to stop. The Joint Chiefs of Staff surround Kennedy, aggressively demanding an immediate, full-scale airstrike on the Cuban missile sites. But the true climax of the crisis isn't happening in Washington or Moscow. It's happening deep underwater in the Sargasso Sea. Aboard the Soviet submarine B-59, conditions are hellish. The air conditioning has failed, temperatures exceed 110 degrees, and the crew is passing out from carbon dioxide. Above them, American destroyers begin dropping practice depth charges. They are just trying to force the submarine to surface. But to the isolated, suffocating crew below, who haven't heard from Moscow in days, the explosions sound like the start of World War III. Believing a nuclear war has already begun above them, the submarine's exhausted captain, Valentin Savitsky, reaches his breaking point. He orders his men to arm the T-5 nuclear torpedo. His plan is to vaporize the American fleet above them. Because it carries a nuclear payload, firing the weapon requires the unanimous consent of the 3 senior officers on board. The captain says yes, the political officer says yes, but the flotilla commander, Vasily Arkhipov, refuses. A screaming match erupts in the control room. The captain threatens him, demanding he turn his key and authorize the launch. Surrounded by furious, exhausted men in a sweltering metal tube, Arkhipov holds his ground. He argues that they are not under attack, only being signaled. Against all odds, Arkhipov talks them down. The B-59 slowly rises to the surface, met not by bombs, but by the blinding searchlights of the U.S. Navy. Back in Washington, the clock has nearly run out. If a deal isn't struck by morning, the invasion of Cuba will begin. In the dead of night, Robert Kennedy secretly meets with the Soviet ambassador, Anatoly Dobrynin, to propose a confidential trade. The Soviets agree to remove their missiles from Cuba under the strict supervision of the American military blockade. In exchange, the United States quietly agrees to dismantle its own Jupiter nuclear missiles stationed in Turkey near the Soviet border. The public wakes up to news that the nightmare is over. The world had come closer to the brink than anyone realized. To prevent such a catastrophic miscommunication from ever happening again, the famous red telephone hotline was installed, linking Washington directly to Moscow. Thanks to backdoor diplomacy and one brave man in a suffocating submarine, the sun rose on a world that survived. Leave your opinions in the comments below.